And hello again to everybody joining us, whether you've joined us just for the first time or whether you've been here since the beginning. It's great to have you with us. My name is Lisa. I'm the stream host for today, stream number two, and I'm delighted to be here again. And I'm really looking forward to our panel discussion. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, self-describe, I'm a 33-year-old black woman with black hair, and then I'm wearing a Charity Digital blue t-shirt. Whilst we're waiting perhaps for others to join, please feel free to say where you're joining us from in the chat. And obviously, before we start the session, I'll just give a few house rules and apologies if you've been there before and you'll probably be bored to hear me say that again. But with all our other sessions, this panel discussion is going to be recorded. So don't worry about missing anything. You'll receive the recording in the next few days. If our speakers and guests have any links they want to share, we will also make sure to share that alongside this. Closed captions are available for today's session. They should be at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. And then, obviously, during the session, please feel free to ask loads of questions. We have an hour together, so we will address them towards the remaining 15 to 10 minutes. So please do ask us lots of questions, and I'm sure with the topic we have today, there's gonna be plenty. If you have any sound or image issue, please let us know in the chat, and we'll do our very best to get back to normal. So without further ado, let's get started. Today's panel discussion is all about gaming for good, and obviously I'm not going to be talking about gaming for good. I've got loads, three fantastic experts joining me for this conversation. And obviously, innovative ways of fundraising are welcome by charities and the supporters alike. But for many, gaming for good might be uncharted territory. Some charities have exponentially upped their digital fundraising effort over the past couple of years. Supporters are looking for new and exciting ways to donate, to participate, to support, and also have fun while doing so. So Gaming for Good gives charities of all shapes and size the chance to raise huge sum, work with streamers, influencers, and then still engage, existing and new donors. So hopefully this discussion will help you navigate this exciting, opportunity. And we will have a very honest opinion because perhaps it might not be the right one for you, but we'll discuss. And I'm joined today by, as I said, three fantastic experts. So Tom Downie, who's Director of Strategic Philanthropy EMEA at Tiltify, Rachel Henderson, who's Community Fundraising Leads at Samaritans, and Will Robinson, who's Head of Fundraising at Become. A very warm welcome to you three.
Hello.
Hi, hello. So if you wouldn't mind, just a bit more of introduction for all of you. I don't know if you want to get us started, Tom, at
Of
Tiltify.
course, I can. My name is Tom. I work at Tiltify. Some seeing people commenting in the chat. Lovely to meet you, or see some of you again. I look after charities and content creators across UK and Europe. And well, the sort of time zone, but that's where the majority of the work takes place. And we work with lots of really interesting and exciting events and creative types, and I look forward to exploring that a little bit more over the next 56 minutes or so.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Tom. Hello, Rachel. Do you want to tell us more about you?
Hi everyone, lovely to be here. So I'm Rachel, my pronouns are she, her. Just quickly, I'm a white woman with brown wavy hair, glasses, mid-30s, green cardigan, black t-shirt. And I am the community fundraising lead at Samaritans. So in practice, I specialise in working with content creators, influencers. I've been doing this for about the past 4 or 5 years or so, helping them do all sorts of weird and wonderful things online with their communities to raise vital funds and awareness about mental health and suicide prevention.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Rachel. Last but not least, hello, Will.
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, everyone. I'm Will Robinson. I am a cis man, white, pronouns he, him, wearing brown t-shirt. So I work at a charity called Become. Most of you might not have heard of us. We support children in care and young care leavers, national charity. I'm probably going to be here to represent kind of like the small charity voice and opportunity. I've been kind of leading on our creator and gaming product for about 5 years now, and we're still continuing to have success. So really excited to kind of like talk about the opportunities that are available to all charities, I believe.
Superb. Thank you very much to all three of you. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started with the first question we have today, which are about these barriers to involvement in gaming for good. Because despite its popularity, we're perhaps seeing loads of charities to struggle to get involved, to make the most of it. So perhaps we could address some of the barriers, or how can charities overcome these? I don't know if you, obviously from a small charity perspective, if you want to start, Will.
Yeah, really happy to. So I think for a lot of people, like the biggest barrier is kind of like overwhelm, right? It can be this whole new world, this whole new language that kind of like, gamers or creators can speak. So if you're not an active creator or gamer yourself, it can feel like really overwhelming, like you don't know where to start. So and then a bit of perspective about me, I'm like a part-time gamer. I've never streamed myself. I've never gone live. So I myself only have that minimal expertise, I would say. So I would strongly encourage, as kind of like one of your first steps in like exploring this area, is to find an expert, find an ally, and you probably will have them. They will already exist within your supporter base at your charity. So really early on, like, we just put the like an email out to our we had a MailChimp list, and we did have one person step forward who was an expert. They're an active streamer, and they became like a guide for me over the following months and years, kind of explaining or helping, being a bit of a board to bounce ideas back and forth from, to make this work, because they were already a supporter of our charity, so they cared about us. They found it really valuable. They were very grateful to kind of be given this platform to advise this charity they already care about, and use their expertise and their passion, right? Because so many creators, they aspire to be as successful as possible as a creator, as an influencer, and I suppose the majority of people that I engage with and work with and support are kind of like small time, like beginner streamers. And that's kind of today, kind of the kind of people I'll probably speak to a lot more than kind of influencers, where Rachel and Tom will have a lot more expertise in terms of those who are getting thousands of active viewers, and able to raise £10,000 in one night. That's not like where we've had success. Ours is very much more like grassroots community, people who are getting like one viewer or five viewers, but are still able to raise £100 or £200. But if you bring enough together, you can really build a really strong community. So it's kind of coming back to the question of the barriers. Yeah, I think finding that expert is really helpful, and then trying to keep things as simple and accessible as possible. So I remember my first few weeks thinking about it. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to host a Fortnite tournament, and it just quickly became like really difficult. There's all these barriers and hoops to like try and make that work, and I think that the key mistake I made was most influencers, they kind of have their game, they have their content that they create, and that's what they want to create with their audience. That's what that audience kind of follow them for. So if you ask influencers, or creators to play an entirely different game, that might be a barrier for them to kind of like support you and your charity. So what we've done and the success we found is to keep things as simple and accessible as possible, and let them play their own game or choose their own content at a time that suits them, and then it's accessible to everyone. So that was how we kind of overcame that challenge. And maybe the final thing I'll say before I let others jump in is budget. Like, you do need some budget. It doesn't have to like break your bank. You don't need £10,000 to create this. Like our first event, 2020, I think we spent £500, and that was creating a little bit of graphics and some marketing budget to kind of reach this audience, because yeah, there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of active gamers and creators just in the UK. But you'll also find support coming internationally as well. This is not just the UK world; it's international. So we've had like people fundraising for us in the US, in Norway, in Australia. Like it's strange thinking it, because we're like a UK charity, but like if they love it and they want to get involved in this like cool event you've created, yeah, they'll then get behind your cause. Which is probably the final thing I'll say is I learned that we created it as a gaming product or creator product, which kind of happened to be for charity, rather than a charity product which happened to be gaming or creator fundraising. And by that I mean like most people, certainly for us, we're like a relatively unknown charity. Like we to get people to take that first step and sign up. We couldn't rely on our cause and charity because people weren't aware of us. Therefore, we had to make it a gaming event where people, I want to join. And then once they've made that first initial step, then we can take them on a journey to introduce our cause with compelling messaging, and eventually kind of motivate them to be a supporter of our charity, as well as wanting to take on this really exciting gaming or creator event. I will pause now and let someone else come in. Hope that was helpful.
Brilliant. Yes, that was really, really interesting and great to hear the perspective of a small team, I guess. How many people in your team, Will?
So we're a fundraising team of 6 as a whole.
6. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but breaking that down, we're like 1.5 people in public fundraising. We count as public fundraising, and I'm the only person who actually really leads on this. And I also like lead on corporate partnerships. So it's I manage a lot, but I was still able to make it work.
To make it work. Brilliant. I think that's really interesting. Rachel, from the larger team and charity size, what's your opinion? What were your tips?
Will has covered a lot of really good points, and those points apply to charities of all sizes. So whether you're tiny micro charity doing like local grassroots level, or like us, you're a national charity or international aid charities, you're still going to face a lot of the same barriers and same problems. I think would take it back and even step further in terms of fear. There's still a lot of fear around gaming, and this is why I don't like the term gaming for good. I'm a bit of a rebel in that sense, because there is so much anxiety around gaming still. There's still stigma about it. Still, most people's first thought is it's teenage boys in their bedroom getting angry over Fortnite, and that's not it. It's a really vast world out there in terms of gaming and the kind of people who are gaming, but also in the content creator influencer side of it all, which is where we see an awful lot of the fundraising elements come from. There's also a corporate element to gaming for good, but not going to get too heavy into that today. Can like focus on like the community side of things. So I think that fear is one of the first barriers in terms of how do you get internal teams on board and understanding that gamers aren't aliens. Content creators and influencers aren't aliens. They're just people like everybody else. You can talk to them and ignite their passion for your charity and their passion for their hobby to do some good, just in the same way that someone who loves baking is going to run a brilliant bake sale, or you're going to get somebody who's passionate about running the marathon. Gamers, content creators, that whole remit of people, they're just people who are passionate about something, who want to do some good with that passion. So working through that internal buy-in piece is really important, making sure you get senior leadership, others in your organization, to understand that it's not a terrifying prospect out there. It's not this whole other world that you're never going to understand. It is accessible. It is something you can get involved in. You do have to be authentic, and you do have to take the time and put the budget in and put the resource in to get involved and to do that well. But it's not something completely outside of our wheelhouse. It is possible. On the flip side of that, contradict myself a little bit here as well. it's okay if this isn't right for your charity. I think that's the other key thing here, is that you might go through all of this and be like, I have to get involved. This is the big thing. This is the next big thing. Not everything is going to work for every charity. It's not going to work for every donor base, for your messaging. Lots of reasons why this might not be the right thing to put your time and energy into. It can be quite labor intensive, especially if you're having to learn a lot. If you don't already have influencers or gamers in your databases that can help you, that kind of can be a bit more difficult. So obviously we're going to go and explain like lots of how to get involved in this, but equally just want to give everybody permission to be like, you know what, it's okay if that's not right for you. You can enjoy this session, learn loads, and go,
Yes.
not for us. That's cool too.
Brilliant.
But yeah, like Will, I'd say the first place in terms of getting started is go back to your database, see who's already doing this kind of fundraising for you, and ask. Content creators especially love to talk about what they're passionate about and share that knowledge. So they will be delighted to hear from you that you want to learn more about what it is they're doing, the fundraising they've done. So that's a really good way to just overcome that learning gap, without having to figure out how Twitch and everything else works and start streaming yourself. The other thing I'd say as well is, the other barrier is that thinking that you need to land some major mega influencer to raise money. Actually, like Will, even though we're quite a decent sized charity, the majority of our fundraisers are sort of micro influencers, nano influencers, who maybe have viewerships of anywhere from 10 to 10,000 people maximum. Concurrent viewership is usually, which is the number of people watching at the same time. Try not to use too much jargon. Is normally around 3. That's the average for platforms and for content creators, because there are thousands of them out there. So you don't need to get your Jacksepticeye's, your Ninjas, your Dr. Lupos to be successful in this. Actually, some of the most successful content creators you work with are the grassroots ones who are so passionate about what you do, and their community is so closely aligned with them that they'll do really good fundraising for you. So kind of overcoming that barrier there of accepting that actually your grassroots is going to be just as important as seeking out those kind of mega content creators. The other key thing I'd say in terms of barriers is accepting the fact that this is community fundraising. And just because it's on the internet doesn't mean you have any more control over it, or you should be any more afraid of it than what's going on at the local bake sale, in the local Rotary Club, whatever it might be. Content creators are going to talk about your cause. So arm them with those tools, be prepared with talking points, be prepared with advice, impact points, tips. If there's really specific ways you want someone to be talking about you, tell them. But equally accept the fact that just in the same way that you don't know what's being said about you at the jumble sale, just because you can tune in and watch it, doesn't mean you should be afraid of that. And the fact that maybe they haven't used exactly the right terminology, or they've gone a little bit off piste, you have to accept that people are going to use their own language, use their own terms. They know what resonates best with their audience in terms of content. And that's really important, is to not completely let go of control, but just accept that you can't control everything, just because you can see it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rachel. And I'll get to you in a minute, Tom. I just wanted to flag. So we had a very interesting question from Holly, who was just asking whether it was possible to give a very short, basic beginner's introduction into how gaming for good works. So I think it might be even better if you could give a quick overview of obviously Tiltify and your answer to the question, Tom. I think that that could help as well visualize better perhaps for Holly.
Yeah, sure. I'm delighted to. And I've because I'm in the chat, I can see the thing.
Yes, so you can
so
see.
do
So
wave
yeah.
and stuff. And I can actually answer two questions in one, because there's another good question from Phil there.
Yep.
But basic beginner's guide, introduction to how this works, please. Yes. So I think I'm going to say Can I answer the first question first
Of
that you
course.
asked?
Yes,
Just
yes,
because
yes, yes.
I think Rachel and Will, you bloody hell, I didn't need to be here. Absolutely, absolutely covered it up. One of the things that I have a blessing of getting to talk to lots and lots of charities about their fundraising and this thing, and just like some like common things that I come up time and time again that make me giggle a little bit. That are common things is the word itself, gaming. Up until about 2021, charities were referring to their lottery department as the gaming. And so suddenly, when you're trying to pitch this idea to trustees or to try the like the is that homonym? Is that the right word? But the meaning of the word gaming is very, very confusing. It's like, so why are we doing gambling? What's this? No, oh god. So I do try where I can never to use the word gaming. And also I think something that both Will and Rach you do at your charities is you don't. I don't think on either of your things when I've looked at your websites you don't use the word like calling all gamers. It's players or streamers or content creators, or it's still niche, but it's casting a wider net. And so I really the term gaming for good is in my mind problematic and alienating, and I really try and avoid it at all costs. And internally, I urge you to too. And Lisa, I was actually going to say might want to change the subject, but I thought no, because then we won't get to have this discussion. Anyway, Holly, to answer your question, this is Community Fundraising 101. This is the most basic form of community fundraising. It just so happens that this community member that has chosen to fundraise for you, rather than working for, I think, Rachel, as you pointed out, the local Rotary Club or the WI or whatever, their community happens to like playing games, let's use it really like non-computer game, chess. You know, they like playing chess, and it so happens that lots and lots of people like to play chess, discuss chess, talk about chess, or Star Wars, or the Marvel cinemas, or James Bond, or anything that's got this sort of fanatical group, this passion, as the word that we keep coming back to. They will have people that flock to it, and they form a community, much like in the local area where I think we've got in where I live. There's some local crocheters and knitters who go out and yarn bomb every season, and that is a collective group of people led by one or two really influential people who, when they say, guys, it's time to do a thing, the community activate. And it's exactly like that, but on the internet. And from a Tiltify and from our perspective, the way it works with fundraising is a typical fundraiser back in, let's say, 2015 might be you would do your online. Let's say you're running the London Marathon. You'd say, "Oh, hi guys, please sponsor me to do this run." And you would probably email or post on Facebook, perhaps, saying, "Please sponsor me." And you'd have a donation link to any fundraising platform. And the interaction that you would have with that page would be to be able to click donate and leave a message. And that would be your interaction. What Tiltify does is it allows for when, let's say I've sent you an email, or you're watching me now, because this is a live stream. We're currently streaming. We are gaming for good, if you want, and we are playing by talking. I'm not going to get into much of the weeds there. But if I said to you guys right now, okay, if you donate to me right now, we're going to settle, does pineapple belong on a pizza? I'm going to put two answers in the chat, yes or no. And you can put your money towards yes or no. And whichever comes out on top is the definitive answer and forever shall be known as that is the way forward. And suddenly you're inspired to donate on a slightly different level. You might donate multiple times because you genuinely are quite sort of like, whoa, who's saying pineapple doesn't belong on a pizza? Who is this savage, or whatever? So you can change that. You can sort of change the rhetoric and the language and make it playful. So it's not necessarily gaming for good, but it's this sort of like gamification and bringing that model of playfulness into fundraising. And kind of all of this stuff, all of this type of fundraising that we work with, and that Will and Rachel you'll work with your content creators, how I see it, it's like how we used to fundraise before the internet. You know, we used to go and knock on the door and say, "Will you sponsor me per mile, please?" And I'm going to do something funny, or I'm going to sell goods, or £5 a go at trying to throw the sponge at the teacher, and yeah, do you know what? I'm going to pay another £5 and try and throw that wet sponge at the teacher again. It's all of those things, but it's just online. Did I answer a question? I don't know if I did, but I enjoyed talking.
Yeah.
Can I just add to that quickly?
Yeah.
It's Tom's really describing that really well in terms of that gamification element of it. I think the key thing is for a lot of this is it's about live interaction. And I think this is something Tom says quite often, and I'm surprised it hasn't come up yet, is it's basically children in need, but on a smaller scale with live
Yes.
interaction. So you're often getting content creators doing weird, wonderful, fun things that might involve video games, it might involve baking, it might involve sewing, it could involve just having a chat like we're having today. But it's about having that live interaction and seeing that totalizer go up while you're watching that content, making them do silly things like wear ridiculous hats, or having your say on whether pineapple should belong on pizza. Absolutely, it should.
Oh,
It's
wow.
very much that.
Very controversial.
I feel like the chat's going to go off in a second about this one. Totally derail. But it's that live interactive element that is really key to this area of fundraising. From my perspective anyway, it's that instant gratification for your donation.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Tom, do you want to add a little bit more about the barriers to so should we say streaming for good rather than gaming for good? Is that a better term?
I don't like any of those.
Any?
Because it's all for good. Nikki Ledbetter's just put a comment in the chat, and can you expel her from the chat? She said pineapple doesn't belong on pizza. I don't know if you can kick someone out of the chat.
I tend to agree with Nikki. I'm sorry.
And also yourself. Yeah. I feel like I really like my echo chambers. Sorry. So what was the question?
So the barriers, the barriers to and the term. So if obviously we've started with gaming for good.
So it's not like I think it's best not to think about this type of fundraising necessarily. And Will, you might disagree with me because I know you've got a specific product around it, and that is actually relevant and has a place. But this type of fundraising, well, it's a way of fundraising as opposed to a demographic in itself. Is how I see it. So last year and this year, no wait. And next year, sorry, I forgot what year it is. Like with the London Marathon, for example, there will be content creators running the London Marathon. How will they do their fundraising? Well, they might play some video games. They might do a live stream in their kitchen of them making pancakes. But the event that they're fundraising for is the London Marathon. Now, who gets that budget? The charity problem. So it's a way of fundraising. And it doesn't necessarily need to sit in its separate way, in the same way that with like a corporate, we've had plenty of corporate teams that are doing some form of gamified fundraising, but it's because they're doing a challenge event, or they've just got a goal that they need to hit. We were the fundraising platform for Marks and Spencer's fundraising back in June when they did a big fundraising campaign. And that's a big retailer doing their fundraising. No one there was doing anything to do with gaming, but they're all playing and they were doing various different things. So it's about just acknowledging that basically the way that we fundraise in 24 onwards is different. More technology exists than ever existed before, and it does present an incredible opportunity that might have an element of playfulness to it or gaming, but it's very much I don't know. The other thing that I was just going to add to the gaming thing is, if you are approaching and going down the content creator road and trying to sort of pull these things, and I've had this meeting so many times, it really is not an overnight success. You can get lucky. Obviously, luck exists. Luck is a thing. The lottery exists, and that is luck. And you might very well turn out that you do have, the equivalent of a Lenny Henry in your database that's going to say, do you know what? I am going to do a 40-year fundraising campaign on the BBC for you. It's possible, but realistically, this is going to be a long. You're starting community building from scratch, which I know Rachel and Will, you've both done. Which is like, right, there's a whole group of people here that I want to try and target that I have no interaction with whatsoever. I need to insert myself here, and that takes time. Like if I don't know, Will, you're UK based entirely, aren't you? Your charity work, I think I'm right in saying.
Yep.
Yeah. And if you wanted to say, right, do you know what? we don't work in France, but I'm going to start fundraising in France. You wouldn't just go over there and stick up a billboard with a baguette on it and say, donate to us. You would probably go and live there for a bit and try and work out what these crazy French people are like and what they think about things, and maybe try and work out how you can fundraise with that community of an entire nation. Rather than sort of hoping for overnight success. So yeah, if you are going down this road, it takes time.
Takes time. It's time. It's many time. But thank you very much to three of you for sharing your take on the barriers and how to overcome these. And obviously, I know you mentioned a couple of obviously a couple of trends already, Tom. But do you mind expanding a little bit more on on the key trends that you've observed over the past 6 months and into 2025, etc. Obviously, we're seeing perhaps shifting demographics like the rise of older gamers and streamers, the increase in female gamers, environmentally driven individuals as well. There's also some specific events. So can you tell us a bit more about the trends you're seeing?
Yeah, I can. I think the trends that, as with so many things, you sort of look for the key indicators and then you start seeing them happen. Like when there's a tsunami, it doesn't just happen. It's a terrible analogy. When something's coming towards you, you can sort of see it coming and before it hits you, and it's sort of looking out for what's coming towards you first. And something that I think we spotted maybe 2 years ago, and just in the last 6 months, we've really started, maybe a bit longer than that, but certainly since this summer, we've seen a lot more of is people being more creative with their fundraising in a real big nutshell. And to sort of like explain that, I've got several examples. Where shall I go with? It's not an example I wanted to use, but it's the only one I can think of, so you're getting it. I'm sorry, because it's the Samaritans one, and I didn't want to throw you under the bus, Rach, or steal your idea. That might be yours. But there's a fabulous fundraiser who I can't remember if it was this May or last May, filled a hot tub with Pepsi Max and sat in it, and put a camera on and live streamed from there, taking charitable donations. And why I like that, because it harks back to about 1996, the bathtub filled with baked beans, that classic fundraiser that it's like this, or even going back sort of 10 years to the ice bucket challenge. This, I'm going to do something that is horrible for a sizable amount of money. And he himself, I think, I mean, I won't give too much away, but I know he does stand-up comedy and he enjoys. I think he plays games. Games are a part of who he is, but his fundraising activity was nothing to do with that. And this is something that we see a lot of. And the example that I will give, and this is the trend that we're seeing a lot more of, and it's growing, is the gamer, the content creator, the person you are asking to do something might not necessarily want to do the thing that you're asking them to do. Well, you mentioned like asking people to do Fortnite, and it's like, but this isn't what they do. Now that's a really good example, but it can, if the ask is right, it works better. And the example I always use is lawyers. So if you were going to approach a law firm and you had a bunch of lawyers and you wanted them to fundraise for you, you wouldn't go to them necessarily and say, hi guys, would you, I appreciate you do this as a job because this is your job. Would you mind doing a 24-hour law off for our charity? Could you do some law for us and raise money? Because that's a weird ask. And why would people donate? And what's all going on here? Yeah, sure, pro bono stuff, awareness raising, chef's kiss. But for fundraising, that's going to be terrible. However, we happen to know in the charity sector that lawyers fall very comfortably into the I like to bike ride category of people. We see it all the time. There's always groups of lawyers on any bike ride. And I don't mean, it's a compliment to the lawyers and cycling community probably. But if you approached the law firm and said, guys, we've got this cycling challenge, it's from London to Paris, it's going to take 3 days, it's going to be pretty epic, would you like to do it? You'll probably have a few less people taking part because you're not going to get the entire firm, but they're actually going to raise some money for you, as opposed to not really understanding how they're going to raise their money. And this is something that we're seeing a lot in the creative sense, is content creators basically wanting to do other stuff for charity. They want to do like you watch Children in Need comic relief. I think Children in Need is like this weekend, or it's just happened, or it's like it's right now. The there's always physical challenges that the main presenters are taking part in. You'll have, I don't know, I'm going to make this up because I haven't been on top of it this year, but like the host of the one show, he's not going to do a host for, or she is not going to do a host for charity. They're going to take a tuk-tuk from Land's End to John O'Groats, and that's how they're going to do their fundraising. There's I'm very intentionally not using any creators' names because I'm trying to sort of use language that might, just because I've sort of looking in the chat, I think, you know, we could look at someone, I will use some just for example's sake, someone like Tubbo, who is famous for playing Minecraft. Yes, this won't mean anything to a lot of you, that's fine. But he's had his most successful streams and raising of engagement while sitting in a camper van traveling across Europe. He wants to do something else that's exciting, and his community like this person and want to see them having a good time. It doesn't mean they won't do that one thing, but they'll, you know, it's fandom fundraising, and people are a fan of these celebrities, these people, and so when they say, I'm going to do something crazy for charity, do you want to take part? They say yes. I'm going to use one more example and then I'll stop because I'm waffling and I can feel myself doing it, but I always forgive me if you've ever seen me speak before because I'll have said this to you, but I always like to use Gary Barlow as an example because I think he's just the best example of a content creator, because he's a content creator, right? He makes content. That content might be on CD, and that content might be music, but he creates content that is consumed and has been doing so since the mid-90s. Now, when he does his fundraising, and he's got an OBE for this, I believe, or a knighthood or something fantastic, for his charity work, his first charity fundraisers he wrote a charity single, and it did, you know, tens of thousands of pounds. Decent, fantastic. He auctioned off the lyrics to one of his songs, has handwritten lyrics, raised several £1,000s there as well. He sold out the Royal Albert Hall, putting on a charity gig, raised over £100,000. These are fantastic. Where did he raise his most money ever? Was climbing Kilimanjaro for comic relief, where he raised 4.2 million. And that's because he was doing something that was outside of his comfort zone. And this is why I really try to encourage people, when you're thinking about working with content creators and maybe people with a bit of fandom, which is possibly not what you wanted me to talk about, but never mind, I'm here now, is exploring maybe something challenging that they have wanted to do, and consulting with them and thinking like, what would you do for charity, and really see where you can go. I'll stop.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tom. That's some really, really good start to the question anyway. Yeah, Rachel, do you want to, what are you seeing? Perhaps shifting demographics, perhaps, or other things?
Sure. Before I first go into that, I'm just going to say Pepsi hot tub stream was not in aid of Samaritans.
Oh, was it not? I'm so sorry.
Before I
mean, you're
accidentally
welcome.
claim that in case the charity is in chat thinking, oh, it's ours. That's our
It was
content
us.
creator. We have had somebody who sat in a bathtub for 4 hours and raised £14,000 wearing a
Oh, in a suit. Yes.
Yes. So I can see the confusion, and the content creator who did do the Pepsi stream has done other charity streams for us. So that's the other thing you'll see as well. A lot of this is there's a lot of sort of big names, particularly in the UK, very charitable content creators whose kind of names come up again and again. So you will start to see the same people working with different organisations. In terms of the trends, I think in terms of like the content creators that I'm working with, I'm seeing it's a lot of millennials. So we're not sort of like looking at sort of 16, 17-year-olds, the really young Gen Z, if I'm getting them right. It's sort of more your slightly established, but not necessarily quite settled down into family life sort of demographic. So sort of mid-20s to early 40s even, in terms of the content creators. A lot of people who picked this up as a hobby during the pandemic to keep themselves busy have carried it on. Now life has resumed to normal, for whatever normal may be. So in terms of sort of their demographics, they're hobbyists primarily. There are a lot of content creators who do this full time as a job, but it's a lot of people who are just passionate about something and want to share that online. So that's very much sort of the core demographics we're seeing, is that hobbyist group. Also seeing things coming through a lot with co-working. that's really sort of coming up more and more, where people are just hanging out. They're using it as a communal space to spend time together. So maybe it's a case of you need to clean your house, or you've got some like actual paid work to be getting done. You might pop a stream on, have it on in the background. Your content creators doing their day job, or we've got a great fundraiser who's writing a PhD, and will often do a co-working stream where she works on her PhD while her community just hang out and they work together and then have a chat for a break. That's starting to come through more and more as people sort of turn to content creators and that community spirit in a sort of different kind of way. The other thing coming through quite a bit is sort of role-playing games and the rise of those. Obviously talking a lot about how this isn't not all about gaming, but obviously that does still play a large part of it. But starting to see a lot more people who are really interested in role-playing games. I don't know whether Stranger Things is to blame for it or just how society's going, but that's becoming more popular and sort of slightly less niche and moving more into the mainstream, which is really interesting. So that's kind of like the core sort of trends that we're sort of seeing in the fundraisers we're getting. But the key thing always to bear in mind is that content creation is so broad. There is something for everyone. I think Tom said interesting with the whole like idea of fandom fundraising. Whether somebody's a Swiftie and it's a really mainstream fandom that millions of people around the globe are passionate about, or it's somebody who loves a niche retro game from the 1980s that's played by about 100 people, there is a fandom and there is a space for everyone online to be passionate about what they're passionate about. And these communities will form. So while you do sort of see rising trends that are more popular, there is space for everybody, and charities can find the kind of spaces that work well and connect well with them. We found we get a lot of support from the retro gaming community. They just really liked what we did as a charity. We had some core influencers in that space who kind of led the way. They were big influencers within that space and sort of brought other people on board with them. So there is sort of opportunity across there if you can sort of find the right ambassadors and advocates for you to get you into whatever those niches may be. So you don't, while trends are important and appreciate as charities, you know, we don't necessarily have the time to be cultivating all these one-to-one relationships as much as we'd like to. You don't necessarily always have to be going after like the big latest trend that everybody else is competing with. You can do your research and sort of find your niche and find your ambassadors to find the space that works well for you within this.
Audience. Brilliant. Thank you, Rachel. How about you, Will? What trends have you seen?
I struggled to find a really clear answer for like 2025. I think I'll speak to what's worked for us over like the last
Yes,
few
of course.
years,
Yeah.
really, and because that's still working for us. And I think taking a step back, it's again like I'm not the expert myself. Like I'm not. I don't have the time or capacity to really follow the trends. So but we're still successful and we still keep it like this fundraising product that we have. So our charity is called Become. The products that we describe it as Become Players, and people join specific events. That's a really successful tactic. We found a lot of charities will have kind of just come and create a content stream for us at any time of your choice. But what's been worked for us is we'll host 2 or 3 specific events with a clear window, either over a weekend or a week. And then like quite a few fundraisers come together at the same time and they support each other.
Yes.
And this has become like a really successful and almost critical strategy for us, is kind of building a community where they all support each other. And this is because, again, like I've really struggled. We haven't had any success with reaching big influencers, like none. All our funding, we've raised like £52,000, is through just grassroots small streamers. And those individuals wants to grow their viewers. So we offer this event where people can join, and all the streams they give each other so much love and support. And they all drop into each other's streams. So that one streamer who averages 3 views on their streams, it's now averaging like 8 or 9, and they think like, wow, this is like one of my best streams I've ever done, and this was a great charity event. Maybe I'll do another one in the future. So it's really trying to offer back like value to the small streamers, and I think I might speak more to what a stream package is in the next question, but offering back value and also offering incentives to the fundraiser as well to join up. So this is a trend over the last like 10 years, right, or 10, 15 years is and I'm bringing it back to gaming, very specifically in esports. So esports is like competitive gaming. And some of these tournaments that competitive gamers will take part in can win millions of pounds. Like it's huge globally. And the influence that I took from that, or we took from that at Become, is to try and like take out a little bit of the themes of an esports team into our community. So the main reward that a fundraiser can win or earn on when they fundraise for us is their own gaming jersey. And this has been like hands down like one of the best or most successful tactics we've had. It's like, and we just got our normal supplier who does our running vest. So it's like that's kind of same quick dry material, so it feels good, it looks good. And when I just looked at esports teams, it's like, okay, let's get design like that. And that's been really successful. £200 fundraising target, so not as high as like running a marathon or so. But we do see a lot of fundraisers will just hit £200 at the last minute just to make sure they get the t-shirt, make sure they get the jersey. So that in incentivizing them rewards has been really successful for us. And then the last thing I'll say, moving on, which Tom you alluded to in terms of success of corporate partnerships, is how us having this product as a charity has opened doors outside of community and public fundraising. So it is valuable to include in our applications or pitches to prospective corporate partners, and to be like, these are the kind of things you can get involved in. We know like how to help support you to do your own streaming event. So that's successful. It opens doors as well into like the gaming developer sector. There's a huge gaming developer sector in the UK. So it's if you wanted to seek a partnership with a company there, showing that you kind of know the world, can help. And finally, that there's other big opportunities as well, which is so I'll name a couple of them, like Jingle Jam and Games Aid, where this is like an open application for charities in the UK to apply to be chosen by these big funders. And if you can demonstrate that you kind of know the world and you have kind of some expertise, it'll really help. So having kind of some presence and activity in this area will open other doors for you outside of just the actual direct fundraising that it will provide. So I think that's an important thing to say. And sorry, I know I said that was the last point, but one last thing is diversifying supporter base generally. Like that's an important thing for our charity. Like it's the most diverse like group of people you'll ever find. So if you want to actually just diversify your supporter base, broad supporter base over the coming years and decades, actively reaching out to this community and streamers will really help you achieve that. And they'll bring so much value to your charity with them. So yeah, I'll pause and hand back to you, Lisa.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Will. And thank you very much to the three of you for sharing what you're seeing in the world. And obviously, as I know, we got quite a few questions and one more point of discussion for us. So we can probably be a little bit quicker. But basically, for those of people who watched our discussion and are quite keen to get started or to just progress on their journey to gaming streaming for good. So what would you say are the sort of games platforms or streamers that charities should be aware of, or perhaps mention a couple of tips for raising donations, or what has proved successful in your world that you could share as tips. So Rachel, I don't know if you want to start us with.
Sure. I'll try and be quick on this one. First things first, the first content creators and gamers you want to get to know are the ones that are already fundraising for you. So go through your community fundraising databases in particular, look for people who are talking about playing video games, Mario Kart tournaments, whatever it might be, and find them first, because they are going to be your best resource to build anything from. You want to be looking out for them mentioning platforms like Twitch. That's probably one of the biggest live streaming platforms out there that's being used. YouTube is massive. There's lots of fundraising goes on there. TikTok, it's primarily short form content, but again, it's rapidly rising in popularity. We're seeing more fundraising come through there. And those the key platforms. There are some other platforms out there. The one thing I will say is go and do your research on the platforms and see ethically whether you agree with them, and whether your charity values align with those platforms before you do any sort of like promotion or active outreach towards content creators on those platforms. It's just a really important thing. Obviously, you want to make sure your fundraising is aligning with your organizational ethics. In terms of other good streamers and content creators, just to be aware of from a inspiration point of view, Will mentioned Jingle Jam. That's coming up in December. It's a big UK-based charity fundraising event for multiple charities with the Yogscast, who are a group of key content creators here in the UK. We see the Sidemen do loads of great stuff with their annual football match. There's really good, like the big name inspiration. And little plug, Thankmas is also really huge. Couldn't not mention it. That is led by Jacksepticeye, content creator, every December, and Samaritans had the pleasure of being the first ever UK charity to partner with Jacksepticeye for Thankmas this year. That'll be coming out 6th of December, so keep an eye on that. It's a really good sort of insight into all the different things that content creation can be and the influence of fundraising can be. So for just doing your research, I'd recommend definitely taking a look at all of those. Otherwise, get on Twitch, have a search for the charity tag. Everything works with tags, very easy. And just go and sit in on some streams, look at what people are doing. You'll see that there's always some kind of fundraising going on. And it's a really good way to sort of just get that first bit of insight. In terms of sort of top tips, incentivized fundraising, like Will mentioned, works really well with content creators. Really good top tip. If you have short sleeve technical t-shirts for runners, that's basically an esports jersey, and you don't need to redesign anything unless it's blatantly obvious it's a running top. So that works really well. And sort of setting sort of small incremental goals for them to reach where they stack sort of their prizes works really well for encouraging just that next push to the next fundraising goal. Being really open with your content creators, giving them all the tools they need. So you can feel free to check out samaritans.org/stream. We've got our streaming toolkit on there. We're always happy for people to use that as inspiration. It's not necessarily the best one out there. It's not necessarily got everything, but it covers things like overlays, talking points, videos, all this kind of stuff that content creators want to make a really good show. And the best thing they're going to be able to do is also be your ambassadors as well as your fundraisers. They talk essentially for their fundraising. So they're going to be raising that awareness about your organization and what you do. So giving them the tools to do that well and confidently is a massive way to help raise those donations, but also then encourage others to come and fundraise for you. Your existing fundraising content creators are going to be your best acquisition pipeline. And we've seen this, that we've got supporters in Canada and Norway who came to us as a UK charity because one of their friends who streams talked so highly about us. Like, I want to get in on that. I want to get involved in that campaign. So that would be my quick whistle tour on top tip.
Brilliant, Rachel. And as we got, a couple more minutes before diving into question, Will, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, to be quick, I think again, you don't need to know all the platforms. Like the creators themselves will know about Streamlabs and Stream Elements, and a lot of this is how they integrate their stream with their fundraising platform. Tom is Tiltify. I think, in my personal opinion, that's like should be your aspiration if you get really success or get some success in this area. There are other fundraising platforms out there as well. We've had some success just using Just Giving, and I literally just use that because I know it and I trust it. It's easy for me. So you can use others, but please, like, absolutely, you need to look at Tiltify as well, especially if with audiences, creators with like international audiences.
Yeah.
Tiltify is the way to go. So it's definitely the market leader. And then the final one I'd say is Discord. So Discord is like an instant messaging platform. It kind of created maybe 10, 15 years ago in the gaming space, but now it's kind of people use it to speak to their communities live, and we as a charity, we have our own Discord as well, and that's been really important to bring our streams together. They can all drop when they go live and support each other. And if someone has a question, like, I don't know how to integrate my stream elements with my Just Giving, I just like, they put it in the Discord, and then an expert, one of the actual fundraisers, will help them, and I don't have to. But the final thing I'll say is with a lot of these platforms, yeah, you do need to be, as Rachel was saying, you do need to be aware of the risks. You do need to be aware of safeguarding. You do need to be aware of where your boundaries are as a charity with safeguarding. And like all of the internet, like, there is some dark spaces in the internet, as well as with what we're talking about. There is too much hate and trolling on Twitch and on Discord. So you do need to be aware of that and put in place a safeguarding kind of flags and controls that are available to you, but then also be clear about where your boundaries are as a charity. And then I'll pause and
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But Tom, I don't know if we want to add anything in like a couple of 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, as you said, Will, if you want some examples and sort of just try and understand it, you can go on Tiltify, and you can pretty much, certainly in the afternoon, you can generally find someone who is live streaming for charity, and sort of just comprehend it. If you're really, really green to this, you can just sort of look at it and be like, oh, okay, right, now I see what's happening. And it does take 20 minutes to watch it. It's like, put it on the background like you would Radio 2, and just sort of like get familiar with what's going on and just sort of get comfortable. That's always my top tip, actually, for anyone who this is day one, is actually go on twitch.tv is the website, type in something that you're personally interested in, like knitting or cats or whatever. There'll be someone live broadcasting that subject, and just have it on. They will be talking, so a bit like us now, commenting in the chat. There'll be a chat, and you can be like, oh, what's your favorite cat? And they'll be like, do you know what? I really like black cats, or whatever, if that's your thing. And you can start to understand why people are interacting. And once you get that, you're on the road to success, really. But you need to understand that very, very first, like, why are people online, before you can do anything else.
why they build a community online. But yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you very much to the three of you. We got just a couple of minutes to go through questions, so I'll dive straight in. First question from Louisa, saying, so as an older demographic charity, we don't organically have many people already doing this for us. What kind of ask do you approach gamers or content creators with, and how can you bring them on board? You know, if you have any examples.
Yeah, do you want me to take this one just because I work with loads
of
charities?
Yeah.
That might be fair. Older demographic charities, I mean, I don't really have a problem with it, because like everyone's affected by age. It comes for us all, damn it. And also, you know, young people know older people and want to support it. That's a whole conversation to be had, in my sort of a humble opinion. Also, as Rachel said right at the start, maybe this isn't for you as well. That's the other thing. But to Will's, I'm just referencing both of you now. To Will's point is, like, actually you're getting a really varied audience by entering the space. So if you want a diverse group of people fundraising and supporting you long term, this is definitely a place you should start exploring. I don't think we can answer it in the 2 minutes we've got left, but definitely it's worth digging into and trying to comprehend.
Brilliant. I don't know if Rachel or Will, do you want to add to that question? That answer, rather?
No, I think Tom nailed it.
To say, if you're reaching out to content creators, just don't over lecture. Give them a few top tips about why your charity is great.
Yeah.
Keep it short, keep it succinct, and they'll come back for more information if they're interested.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thank you both. Moving on to, does anyone has any example of working with any large gaming company? If what was the approach and the outcome? Anyone?
I've got
I
loads, but
No?
I feel like someone else should talk.
Mm.
I would say, yeah, keep it as your kind of normal pitch, like the same
Yeah,
as everyone else. They do want volunteering opportunities. They do want to be able to demonstrate their social value. But if you can also just seed in that you know the area, know the world, I think that will really help.
Also
Rachel,
remember
yeah,
that big gaming companies are also working with influencers and content creators, so that can be a good way in.
a good way in, yeah.
Through creators you already know, or through suggesting things that work, like with their streaming teams, to sort of like open that door to bigger conversations. And if you can find any kind of synergy between your organization and any of the games they're creating, that's also really good to just create those extra connections.
Super. Brilliant. Tom, do you want to add anything?
Nope.
No, brilliant. No, brilliant. Well, this is all we've got time for today. But thank you so very much for your time to you three. It's been really insightful and really interesting. Obviously, we started a debate about pineapple and pizza, but I'm hoping for those of you who are a little bit newer to the world of gaming for good, streaming for good, that it has given you a couple of tips and that you'll be curious just to explore whether this is something for your organization and whether you can check out Twitch or Tiltify or Discord and see whether there's any topic that might be of interest. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Now we're going to enter our lunch break, so we'll be back at 1:35 for our first session in the afternoon. And in the meantime, thank you very much, Rachel, Will, and Tom. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you very much.